welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and just this month I have launched a trilogy of books, The Immortal Investigations. It's live now on Kickstarter for the month of October and available for general purchase early 2025. Now, to celebrate this, I am spending October looking at books written by other YouTubers. And I'm so excited today to be talking about Axiom's End and the Noumena Series, written by YouTube royalty Lindsay Ellis. Some quick facts: there are 3 books in this series so far, with talk of there being 5 books in total, but there's no official word on that just yet. It's an urban sci-fi series about humanity's first contact with aliens. Although because of human nature, first contact gets real complicated real fast. This story has a fascinating alien race, and one which I would consider to be one of the best examples of a non-human race I've ever seen, and I've watched all of the Star franchises quite extensively. The story also offers some pretty profound social commentary on what it means to be human and the future of humanity. Noumena can also be a pretty heavy series at times, confronting some significant topics like fake news, government control, and immigration rights in how they pertain to extraterrestrials. Plus, there's heavy personal topics like trauma, surviving abuse, and mental health. So this is not exactly a light-hearted, fun kind of series, more like a powerhouse of deeper storytelling. That said, the series has a rough start. I'm a huge Lindsay Ellis fan, she's a big part of why I got into YouTubing myself, but even I have to acknowledge the rocky beginning. But it's also not as bad as you might have heard. Axiom's End has had a disproportionate number of critics slam on it, and we'll talk about that later. So today I'm going to be objective and just give you the facts about the series, as always, to help you decide if you want to read these books. Now, as I said last week for my Daniel Green video, I am not reviewing Lindsay Ellis the person or the YouTube channel. This is about her books. With that in mind, let's take a look at what this story is all about. It's 2007, and the world has just learnt a devastating truth. The US government has already been in contact with extraterrestrials and didn't tell anyone.
I've never been more shocked.
Our protagonist is Cora Sabino. Unfortunately, it was her estranged father who broke this story to the world, and now she and her family are getting caught up in the ensuing media circus. Yet Cora will soon learn that this alien presence has been on Earth longer than people realized, and her family was directly involved in the cover-up. When things grow desperate, Cora takes on the role of unwitting interpreter to one of these alien monsters. She is in the middle ground between this alien presence and the American government and wider world. Yet Cora begins to question the role she plays. Who is she speaking for, and what future is she helping to set in motion? So the story is set in 2007. Now, this might seem like a really random choice at first, to write a story that's only 13 years earlier than the time of publication. But the brilliance of this time setting is the strangely limited technology. At this point, the internet is still evolving, a lot of social media is only in its conception stage, and news is still predominantly paper and TV, not digital. Though the real significance of this time period is the post-9/11 cultural landscape. After 9/11, America saw a pretty significant cultural shift, with many people experiencing a rise in patriotism and national pride and higher church attendance. There was also a massive increase in security in airports and public venues, which led to a greater sense of paranoia and anxiety in all aspects of daily life. So this story mirrors that cultural phenomenon with brilliant symmetry. The existence of aliens leads to a rise in patriotism, increased public paranoia, and a whole lot of public verbal disagreements. This was one of the strongest parts of the series. It's clear that Lindsay has done her research and truly gets how human beings react to the unknown.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
Moving on, the other big world-building detail is the extraterrestrials themselves. Now, these guys are a major strength of the whole series and one of my favorite parts, but unfortunately, I just can't reveal very much about them without spoiling book 1. So I'm going to discuss the aliens only where I can do so, strictly avoiding spoilers. And just know that I'm only mentioning about half of what makes these guys so interesting. So physically speaking, the aliens are about 9 feet tall. They're biomechanical creatures with advanced cybernetic technology on their persons. They have 4 limbs, but a long neck and huge head, sort of like a giant bird. But that's just the surface level. The real fun is alien culture. I'll only mention two things here to avoid spoilers: their caste system and their beliefs. This race, dubbed the amygdalines by the American government, have an elaborate caste system. Every alien person is created to serve a specific function in their society. Each alien has a different skill set that they are uniquely designed for, and you'll find that they're almost useless at anything outside of their skill set. Unfortunately, these aliens have extreme prejudice towards certain castes, although they don't call it prejudice, they just deem it mere efficiency. You know how sometimes in a workplace, a job becomes redundant and then the worker is let go? Yeah, well, sometimes in the alien world, entire castes become obsolete with new technology, and then the members of that caste become unnecessary. This leads us to their beliefs. The aliens are utilitarian, the philosophy that you should always try to achieve the most good for the most number of people, even if that means sacrificing the few. It's essentially the trolley problem. Lots of stories have explored the concept of sacrificing the one to save the many. Sometimes in the story, it's a good thing.
That the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Other times, it's a very bad thing that leads to betrayal and murder.
That the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
It kind of depends on what message the author is going for. Utilitarianism as a moral philosophy has its merits, but also has some dark potential too. All that to say, the aliens are very utilitarian. They are all focused on achieving good for as many people as possible, and that means sometimes their beliefs can make them very dangerous to the few. It's a fascinating storytelling technique that makes these aliens very unpredictable. One last world building detail I want to focus on is the aliens' magic system. Now, their magic system comes in the form of their technology. I would call this a medium magic system. It's quite well done. Actually, it's not well done because it's medium. You might call it medium rare. Anyway, these books show a deep understanding of how magic systems work, even when it's involved with technology, not pure magic. Because on one hand, we know exactly what some of these aliens can do, depending on their caste, and there are hard, specific rules. But on the other hand, there are some castes that we don't understand at all, and that makes them terrifying. For example, look at Mistborn, The Final Empire, the book that popularized the hard magic system. So there's heaps of rules about what a Mistborn can do. Then there are people who just break those rules, like the Lord Ruler and the Inquisitors. You know how terrifying it is when the enemy can do the impossible? This is a lot like what the amygdaline race can achieve. There are established rules for what is possible, and then there are those who break those rules and are all the more terrifying for it. We'll talk more about the aliens in the character section, but for now, let's discuss plot. There are three types of plot lines that you'll see in this series. So first there is uncovering government secrets, and then uncovering the alien secrets. And yes, those are two very different things. And the third one is dealing with public opinion. So first, the government secrets have a lot to do with Cora herself and her family and her father. It's quite a personal plot line at times, but it's also about what the government has done so far and what their real intentions are going forward. Are they telling the truth or are they lying? This becomes even more complicated because there are multiple individuals and factions within the government that want opposite things, so it becomes even harder to trust them. Now, the alien secret plot lines are a whole lot more sci-fi. This is the juicy stuff for us nerds. Why did these amygdalines come to Earth? How long have they been here, and where are the rest of them? Well, some of these questions might be a bit obvious, pretty standard questions for an alien species arriving on Earth. They become more complicated when you realize that the aliens have as many different factions as we do. They have a government, sure, but they are also a group of individuals with different opinions. Some believe that they could work with the humans. Others don't think so. Again, I have to leave the alien part vague and skip over a lot of the good stuff here. The third plotline is about public opinion, and it's really about the control of information and how it's presented to the public. So how will people react when some of these secrets are revealed? In fact, if people will definitely react badly and violently, maybe the truth should not be revealed? How do we fight people like Cora's father, who deliberately reveals information with the intention to incite violence? How can Cora tell people the truth if the truth is nuanced and complicated? There is a tug of war in the public opinion between those calling for peace and those calling for the escalation of violence. I would have to say that the character writing is probably the key area that started off a bit weaker in the series, but it ended up being really good. I don't think there's too much wrong with plot or world building, but character took some time to improve. Now, book 1 has only one protagonist, Cora. Book 2 introduces an additional protagonist, Kaveh Mazandarani. He's an investigative journalist trying to uncover the truth. And book 3 juggles multiple protagonists, like the government agent Sol and the journalist Paris. It's clear by book 3 that Lindsay has well and truly gotten the hang of character writing. Cora is the series' main protagonist, and she's quite fascinating because, yes, she's the lead, but she's also a very quiet and shy person. Now, shy people don't usually take front and center stage in a story. Shyness doesn't necessarily translate well into story form and often just looks like flat character writing. But Cora has real subtlety. She avoids people, and if she has to engage with them, she keeps it very distant. I admit it took a while before I truly got a sense and appreciation for this character. Cora also has an arc over the course of the series and grows. It may appear like, oh, she got more confident, but it's more like, oh, now she doesn't give a shit anymore. That said, the real brilliance here is the alien characters. Lindsay has truly captured an alien mindset and an alien way of looking at things. We see it very clearly in their language and their communication. There are constant misunderstandings in the interpreting that Cora does, because of how different humans and the amygdalines are. In fact, let me just get distracted on this topic for 2 seconds, alright? A lot of non-human races in fiction are often defined by one personality trait. For example, Star Trek has alien races like the Vulcans and the Klingons. Vulcans are all logic, Klingons are all warriors. And yes, I know, they definitely do get more developed over time, but specifically in the original series, it really is like if you've met one of these aliens, you've met them all. Then you have alien characters who are just emotionless and don't understand concepts like love or instinct. This is perhaps problematic, implying that love and emotion are uniquely human experiences and that no other race could possibly love like we do.
But human mothers and fathers don't love their children as we do.
And finally, we have non-human races like the Spren in Stormlight Archive. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not criticizing the almighty Sanderson, but it's just that many of the Spren characters are so damn goofy. This is an example of non-human races that are just so far out there and so weird, and that's how you know that they are not the human race, because they're the weird ones.
You little freaks!
Of course, the Parshendi are a really good example of Sanderson writing a non-human race, but you get the idea. All that to say, the aliens in this series are multifaceted characters, not just the alien race. Though they are still affected by their culture and the environment they come from, they are still presented as people. But back on topic, our main alien character is designated Ampersand. And Ampersand is their version of a doctor, but perhaps just a doctor with really terrible bedside manner. He is blunt and pragmatic, but he also knows when he should be more sensitive, and he makes an effort, even if it's a weaker effort. Yet Ampersand truly believes that he is the superior life form. And he believes that everyone would just be better off if they did what he expects of them. So we like Ampersand, but we're never quite sure if he can be trusted. Still, I mentioned the character writing in book 1 can be a bit weaker, but I think part of that is because the alien characters steal so much of the focus, and the human characters just aren't as interesting. This also gets balanced out later with more protagonists, and Cora's development into changing how her shyness expresses itself on page. But it's time. I can't put it off any longer. We need to address the elephant in the room. If you look at the series on Goodreads, you'll see that book 1 is rated 3.7. Then there's 3.9 and 4.2. So there is a steady growth in this series as it improves in quality. And yet I have to wonder how much of these early negative reviews came from the controversy. I know I said at the start that I'm just reviewing Lindsay Ellis's books, not the channel, but I have to admit the channel is kind of relevant here. Her channel came under fire around the time of the book launch, and I think there was serious spillover from her channel that affected how people still perceive her books to this day. I think book 1 in particular has faced the worst of this. Let me give you the simplest version of the events in case you haven't heard. Lindsay Ellis was cancelled. Now, usually if someone gets cancelled, you might assume that there was some sexual assault or they promoted genocide of a minority. But in this case, Lindsay made a single tweet. Lindsay said that the movie Raya and the Last Dragon was very similar and a bit too derivative of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And a lot of people said, you just think they're similar because they're both Asian, you're just racist against Asians. Now, normally I try to just give you guys the facts and I don't tell you what to think, but I have to be a bit opinionated here. I think this is the most unjustified cancelling I've ever seen. Now, to be clear, this controversy didn't totally cancel Lindsay. She stayed on YouTube for about another year and released Truth of the Divine in this time. Eventually, she mostly left YouTube and has focused on being a writer, stating it's better for her mental health. Also, she started a family, so she has left by choice. But I really have to mention all this because a lot of the reviews that came out for book 1 were right in the middle of this firestorm. Now, I openly admit book 1 has its weaknesses, but I just don't believe they are anywhere near as severe as people think they are. There are so many 1-star reviews of book 1 saying that it has unreadable prose and boring characters and boring story. But I just think the criticism has been extremely disproportionate and exaggerated. Now, personally, I don't like to rate books because I think reducing a work of art to a mere number is a bit reductive, but to make a point, I think both books 1 and 2 deserve a 4-star Goodreads rating, and book 3 deserves its current 4.25 rating, if not a little more. It's really impossible to measure and verify how many of the bad reviews were done in bad faith, but I would just simply hope that you keep an open mind about this. Okay, now that we've established that, we can move away from all controversial topics and start our next segment. Okay, so we're not out of the controversy woods just yet. The handling of themes is the other area that improves a lot over the course of the series. Okay, that's just a polite way of saying it sucks a bit at the start. Why is it rough? Well, it can be pretty heavy-handed with the themes. Good social commentary is always about discussing themes, not preaching them. Let me give you an example. About a year ago, I made a video on Narnia, and I criticized C.S. Lewis for pushing his Christianity too hard on the readers. The issue, of course, is not the topic of Christianity. It in fact has nothing to do with it. It's all about the act of pushing that topic. Now, I compared it to Brandon Sanderson, who discusses religion in just about every single book he's ever written, but never pushes it on the reader. As the brilliant Hoyd says, the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. This holds true for every topic. I wholeheartedly believe that you can discuss any philosophy, belief system, or creed in your story. No topic is truly off limits. But you can't tell your reader what to think, because then it stops being fiction. So discuss the topics, explore and experiment with them, and even draw conclusions. But give your readers the option to disagree without being vilified. All that to say, I think Axiom's End can lean a little too much towards preaching. Nowhere near as hard as I'd say C.S. Lewis does it, but it is past the point of no return. Truth of the Divine tones it down a little bit more, and then Apostles of Mercy is where the balance is finally struck. But what themes are we talking about? So I'll categorize them into social themes and personal themes. So the social themes get introduced so early. In fact, it's on the blurb on the back of the first book. Truth is a human right. We explore the belief that every human being has a right to access all available information, and no government or news corporation has the right to choose what information should or should not be shared with the general public. But then we have to wonder if people are even capable of dealing with this information.
You can't handle the truth!
Another major theme is human rights. Do the aliens inherit human rights by simply being on Earth. This whole topic is full of real-world parallels. Sometimes it's a bit ham-fisted in its delivery, and other times it is shockingly profound. Then there's the personal themes like trauma, surviving abuse, and mental health. This is sometimes pretty intense and confronting, and it's probably worth a trigger warning for some of these topics. But it's also incredible at exploring the process of grief and healing. This is 10 out of 10 depictions of mental health struggles in all its glory and all its horror. There's lots of representation in this series. There's a high ratio of women in this story having real arcs and making important decisions. There's lots of discussions around race and immigration. Much of it is surrounding the aliens, but there's also the protagonist Kaveh in book 2, who was himself an immigrant. His story is very reflective of the alien situation. There's a strong LGBT presence in the series. The main character Cora is bisexual, and that is explored a few times. Some of the aliens are transgender and do not give a about human gender norms at all. That is fun to see. The final area of representation is in all things mental health, as we've established. So things like depression, grief, PTSD are all represented with care and consideration. Content warning, the violence in this book is kind of curious, because there's hardly any of it, but when it shows up, it's a lot. It's like the story doesn't need to rely on violence to be interesting, but will still show it explicitly when it's there. These aliens can be strong and do a lot of damage. The other content warnings come down to the mature themes and the discussions around abuse and trauma. Though there are no depictions of that on screen, it is still talked about quite a lot. Is the ending worth it? Well, the series is ongoing at this stage. Book 3 clearly sets up that another book is coming after that, and there's still only talk at this stage of there being 5 books in total. But I can say that book 3 is the best of the 3 so far, so the series is growing stronger with every iteration, which promises very good things about the upcoming finale. And how much should you try? Well, this one's a bit tougher. You see, each book is better than the last, but I can't say read all 3 and then you'll know if it's worth reading all 3. So look, I will recommend just read book 1. You'll get a good enough idea about the direction and the feel of the series, and it'll help you decide if you want to continue. Just know that it only gets better from book 1. And that's all I've got to say about that. So good luck, my friends, and happy reading. Thank you for watching. Now, just a reminder that my books are live on Kickstarter. Thank you to everyone who's already supported it. If you pledge on the Kickstarter, you'll get your hands on these books by the end of this year, 2024. Then they'll be available for general purchase in early 2025. Hopefully, you'll trust that I can write a decent book after sitting through all of today's chat. Otherwise, if you like this video, subscribe and leave a comment to tell me your thoughts on this series. I've got 2 more videos coming out after this about other YouTubers who've written great books. So I hope I'll see you next week for another book recommendation. I'm the Book Guy, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!